Good morning and welcome to your Farm and Home Show. My name is Joanna Coles, and this morning we're visiting with Dr. Chris Teutsch. He's with the University of Kentucky. He's the Extension Forage Specialist there. And we have a lot of feeding areas that probably need some attention.
We sure do. We see a lot of disturbance, especially around areas where we've had concentrated hay feeding or supplement feeding in pastures. And in those areas always become an eyesore as we get into late spring and early summer, as we get a lot of weed emergence there.
And if we don't pay attention, it will get covered up with weeds and will kind of just complicate an issue that we're going to have to deal with at some point in time.
That's 100% right. So one of our options is to do nothing. And if we do nothing, then we're certainly going to have something growing there. It's usually something we don't want: spiny amaranth, cocklebur, goosegrass, or other summer annual weeds.
So what are some options? What can producers do? We've had a really warm spring, and so things are already out there and growing.
So we have two primary strategies for revegetating these areas, and one is to use some type of a cool season perennial mixture. That would be something like a tall fescue and orchard grass, maybe some clover in with it, and then try to get that planted and up. One of the challenges with that is that we tend to get later into spring before these areas get dried up and we can get them smoothed out, and then that makes our cool season perennial seeding later, and normally they don't have enough time to get emerged and really get a good root system down before it gets hot in the summertime, and a lot of times those seedings don't do as well as we would like.
And that is a challenge because usually those spots do have quite a bit of divots and ruts and different things in it. So, and it does take a while for that to get warmed up and smoothed out. But you have another option as well.
So our second strategy, and we outline this in our Reclaiming Hay Feeding publication, is to use some type of a summer annual grass in those areas. And a lot of times that's a better strategy because we don't have to be rushed about getting those areas dried out and worked up. We can wait until they get dried out, and then we come in and smooth them up in late spring or early summer, and then seed our summer annual grasses. And they include things like pearl millet and sorghum Sudan grass. Sorghum Sudan grass is probably our most aggressive grass for getting up and getting a canopy closure. And when we get canopy closure on those areas, it keeps a lot of the other weeds from germinating and coming up. Other options would be things like crabgrass, and we don't commonly think of crabgrass as a good summer annual option, but it's actually probably one of our most palatable summer annual options. And we can actually buy improved varieties of crabgrass, and that can be good cover on those disturbed areas. And one thing that crabgrass really likes is disturbance in the system.
When would be the timing for that? You said we wouldn't have to be in a rush to get all of it dried out and smoothed out.
Right, so we really go off of soil temperature is the ideal way to go, and we want your soil temperature to be at least 60 degrees Fahrenheit, or 65 is ideal. And usually that happens when our nighttime temperatures start to hover around 60 degrees Fahrenheit. Mm-hmm. And then that gives us time to let everything dry out and get everything smoothed out before we have to actually seed those.
And some producers might ask, this warm season, that'll get through the summer months, but then what do I do in the fall?
So it's going to depend a little bit on what you're going to do with that area. If you're going to feed hay there again, then we could come in probably with a cool season annual grass like annual ryegrass and overseed that area in late summer so that you have something growing there as you go into the hay feeding period. But the challenge with trying to get a perennial established and then feeding hay back on that same area, you're probably not going to give it enough time to get going. Now, if you can rotate that area out of your hay feeding scenario, then you can actually go in late summer and put that cool season mixture that you want, orchard grass and fescue and clover, down and give it some time to get established through the winter.
Yeah, all great strategies for farmers to consider, especially if you just have been using that as a sacrifice area and then not having any type of production on there. These scenarios seem like they would be a much better option.
Yeah.
We do have a publication on reclaiming hay feeding areas. You can call your local extension office or you can find it online. Thanks for watching and have a great day.